What's going on, everybody? So in today's video, we are going to be going over the BRRRR real estate investing strategy, also known as the BRRRR real estate investing strategy. So in this 10-minute real estate video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about BRRRR real estate investing. We're going to have a case study with real numbers at the end of this video. And then below, there is going to be a link to a free BRRRR calculator so you can run your own numbers in your own area. And it's not my calculator, but it works really well. So that being said, let's jump into the video. Okay, so what does BRRRR stand for? Well, the first letter B stands for buy. So you need to purchase a property. You need to purchase a good deal. And we'll go into more detail on what a good deal is in a second here. The next letter R stands for rehab. So you need to purchase a property, then you need to fix it up. And the next letter, the next R, stands for rent. So you're going to purchase a property, fix it up, rent it out. The next R stands for refinance. So you purchase a property, fix it up, rent it out, then you refinance the property, paying off the loan and the repair costs, and then getting the initial money that you put into the deal back into your own hands so that you can invest it into another property, which leads us to the next R, which is repeat. So if you do this strategy correctly, in theory, you'd be able to basically just use the money from the first property and use that same amount of cash and keep taking it out of properties and putting it into the next one. And it's a great way to build up your rental portfolio without having a lot of expenditures out of pocket. So now to go a little bit more in depth, I'm going to spend a minute or two on each section of the transaction, just so you really have an understanding of the best practices to make this work. So as far as purchasing the property, this strategy doesn't just work with any type of rental property. You really need to find properties at a discount to make these numbers work to the point where you'd essentially be getting all your money back from the first transaction. So when looking at rental properties, you can look on the MLS. You want to try to find distressed or motivated sellers so that you can get an initial discount just on the purchase price. And like a lot of investors say, you make your money on the buy. You don't necessarily make your money on the sale of the property. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's true. You really need to look at maybe 50 or even 100 different properties before you find one that meets the criteria. And I don't necessarily mean like driving to 100 different properties and physically seeing them in person. You can run a lot of your numbers just on your own computer, just looking at comps and things like that. The next part of the strategy is the rehab. So when you're rehabbing a BRRRR type of property, you want to focus on what could bring in more rental income. You're not just like doing the bathrooms just to do the bathrooms because you want a nicer bathroom. So some repairs you could do as far as the BRRRR strategy goes. Maybe you could add egress windows in the basement and maybe create a legal bedroom so you can get, more people renting out the property and get more cash flow. You also just want to make sure that the property is in a nice, livable condition. You could get a home inspector to go in there and just like look for really egregious things and make everything, up to date, up to code, everything like that. You don't want to have any issues with potential tenants, and you also want the property to look nice for the appraiser. Next up, we have rent. So after you've purchased a good deal and fix it up so it's in good rentable condition, and just doing simple things like landscaping and painting and fixing any egregious issues, that's going to go a long ways in making your property look very attractive to a potential renter. And when looking for potential renters, you want to be very strict about who you're going to let rent your property. So you make sure they have good credits, do the applications, everything like that, and look through like 5, 10, even 20 different applications before you choose, the 1 or 2 or 3 tenants that you want renting your property. If you take each potential tenant through a proper rental application, which there are plenty of services online where for $50 you can get a rental application, which the renter would pay, the potential renter would pay, and then also make sure that their credit score is good, that they have reviews from any previous landlords, you're going to find the cream of the crop tenants, which is what you're looking for. Additionally, when you're putting your property up for rent, not only do you want to have all these applications and make them go through a process, you also want to have amazing photos. There's a story about Airbnb, and the whole reason that they became, this multi-billion-dollar corporation was that they started getting professional photos. In the beginning, when they were really small, they didn't do that. They had really dark photos that were like taken on a cell phone. But once they got a professional photographer, the photos looked amazing and more people started joining the site. So be sure to get professional photography done. It should cost less than $500. I know that sounds like a lot, but the photos will help sell the place or rent the place in this case. And also, when you're putting your property up for rent, you shouldn't necessarily try to reach for the stars and get the highest amount possible for rent. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, if someone's paying an extreme premium for that neighborhood, like the record-setting rental price, it's possible that there might not be as many applicants because maybe people don't want to pay that price. Or maybe if you do get someone to pay that price, you're not going to stay very long, or they might ask for a lot of repairs. If you price it correctly, maybe even slightly under market price, you're going to have many more applications so you can choose the best tenant, and they'll probably stay for a longer period of time because turnover is what really kills you in the rental business. Next up, we have refinance. So this is the most important piece of the entire puzzle. You can make that argument. So after 6 months to a year, because banks will require seasoning on these different BRRRR deals, you typically can't just do a BRRRR deal in like a month and then do another month and then buy like 6 BRRRR deals in 1 year or anything like that. Usually it's going to take about a year to complete a BRRRR deal, but each lender is going to be different. So talk to a few different lenders and get an appraisal done. It's probably going to be a minimum of 6 months after your renter goes in there. And the banks are going to lend at about 75 to 80% of the appraised value. So if you purchase a property at a discount and then did some repairs to add some value, and maybe even the property values in that specific neighborhood went up over the course of those 6 months or a year, then you'd be able to refinance and take that initial cash that you put in for the property for the down payment, as well as for the repairs, take that cash out and then go find another BRRRR deal. And essentially you would have paid off the existing loan, still have some cash flow from the property. And also you obviously didn't really have to come out of pocket, if you purchased it correctly. So that's where the next step comes in, which is repeat. So if, again, you can find another amazing deal, like you have to look at 50, maybe 100 deals to find that one good BRRRR deal, fix it up, rent it out, get a new appraisal done and refinance the property. And then repeat that step over and over again to build up your portfolio. And the great thing about BRRRR deals, or really any real estate deal for that matter, whether it's a rental property or maybe just a small single family house, every single deal you do, you're going to get a little bit better. So by the time you've done like 5 or 10 or even 20 deals, you're going to feel like a freaking expert. But even if the numbers don't work out perfectly and you have to bring a little bit of money to the table for the next BRRRR deal, I think that's still okay because you would have found a pretty good deal. You would have gone through the process and, the version 2.0 of your BRRRR deal is probably going to be even much better than the first one. Okay, so now I'm just going to take you on the numbers breakdown of a BRRRR deal, just a case study. So let's say you purchase a property for $100K. Like I said, you want to find a discounted deal. So this might be worth 120, 130, 140. Once it's fixed up, or maybe even more than that. You would put a down payment of 25%. So let's say 25K on 100K. Your loan would be 75K. And then your repair costs would be, let's say 20K as an example. So this property is not like a gut renovation, obviously, but there's some things you can do to improve the value. So with your down payment of 25K, repair costs of 20K, you're into it for about 45K, and this does not include closing costs, which are about 3% typically on a purchase. So then let's say you could rent it out for $1,200 a month, and then refinance after a year, just being conservative, for $160,000. Now, like I said, the banks are going to refinance at about 75% of the value. So that would give you 120K, which is 75% of 160, which pays off your loan of 75K and also gives you 45K in cash, which covers your down payment as well as repair costs. And then after that's all said and done, you now have a cash flowing asset and you can move on to the next property. And like I said, you're going to get better with each real estate deal, each BRRRR deal, and it's a great way to just build up a massive real estate portfolio. So thanks for watching this video. And if you have any questions about the BRRRR strategy, just drop them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer. And also please like this video because it helps the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye.